Hello and welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. You join us today at the end of the season. We're very sad for that indeed. We do have our wonderful people here with us today, and we are live on YouTube as well. So please do get involved in the comments as we go on. Starting today in a little bit of a different way. There's been reports and a video emerged of Liverpool's trophy parade, and a situation has happened where I won't go into the details, but a situation has happened where people have been injured. So I just want to start today by sending our thoughts and prayers to everybody who has been affected by such action. I'll call it. So yeah, hopefully everybody can come out of that okay. But just wanted to start today with that. Let's see who we've got on the show. We have got all the way from the US of A, Dagan. How are you, mate?
Hey, Joe. Sorry to start by trying to make sense of the senseless, but yeah, I hope everybody is surviving. Sounds like an awful scene. Otherwise, doing okay here in the States. Still feeling good after what was a really strong performance yesterday. Disappointed not to have it land us in Europe, but nonetheless, really proud of the squad.
Yeah, that was the overriding feeling for me. Definitely proud. We do have a new feature today, everybody. We've got our lovely comments appearing on screen. So if you do want to get your comment in on the Albion Obsessed podcast on screen, please do so next to our wonderful Spanish friend, Jordi. How are you doing, mate?
We are fine. Such an amazing match yesterday, and finishing the season high with huge expectation for next year.
Exactly. Big expectations for next year. We are joined by the two optimists of the Albion Obsessed podcast, Dagan and Jordi, expecting big things coming. Yeah, Dagan, never. Let's start, as we always do, with the starting 11. It was Bart Verbruggen in goal, Mats Vifa, Van Hecke, Webster, Igor as the back four, Adingra, Baliba, Ayari, Minte as the midfield four, and Fotmob has it as a strike pairing of Brian Gruder and none other than Jack Bloomin' Hinshelwood, who we are going to be talking about a lot on today's podcast. So what's not to love? Dagan, first of all, when that lineup came out, obviously no Welbeck, no recognised striker. What were you thinking?
I think I said to Fred, we've got 3 center backs and a bunch of midfielders. And that's really what we saw. Just midfielders everywhere. And it felt a little like Hursuler ball come to life. And that's kind of what we saw as the game wore on. So lots of fun to talk about. Obviously disappointed to not see Matoma with the first 11, but he's been a super sub for a while now, and that seems to be panning out. So, I think Adingra, I'm always a little shaky when I see him in the lineup, and especially he was playing on the right rather than on the left. It was a really interesting formation. I'm sure we'll talk more about that. And surprised Igor got a chance too. That was the other sort of, maybe thing that caught me a little bit off guard. And we were wondering whether we would say back 3, but really he was playing in a left back role. So it was a fascinating group.
Yeah, exactly that. Before we come to you, Jordi, let's have a look and see who we've got in the comments today. We've got Mr. Michael Webster. How are you doing, my friend? Evening all, as Jack Warner would say in Dixon of Dock. I haven't seen that, Michael. I can't say. That's something that's recognizable to me. Joanna, hello to you. Doom saying it's unfortunate that we won't be playing in Moldova next season. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Brighton fans who go home and away are probably quite happy that their bank account is not going to get punished, but also quite sad that they can't go to the deepest depths of Kazakhstan. We've got David Waterhouse saying, good evening, can't wait for next season already. And Posy Pos, hiya everyone, hello to you. Luke Links, hello Mr. Luke Links, good day chaps. Very excited for what you've got cooking, Mr. Luke Links. You should message me later and give me a heads up. No, he probably won't. And Dave saying, please stay Matoma. Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Jordi, starting 11, no striker.
Yeah, no striker, but yeah, possibly was a little bit tough starting. Also possibly the condition that Spurs have win the Europa League despite was for me one of the most horrible matches as Europa League final or Champions League. But yeah, possibly the atmosphere helped a little bit. But when then the football started, they have demonstrated that not Tottenham, not United were opponents for Brighton this season, and this was happened. And then the most important was like the and finishing with this goal of Diego Gomez that was insane.
Yeah, a beautiful, beautiful day to be a Brighton fan. Dagan, let's talk about the shape. So from what I watched, Adingra started on the right, Minte on the left. Hinch was sort of in behind Gruder, but could you give us maybe a little bit more of a tactical insight into what shape that was?
Yeah, I mean, we showed a kind of a narrow profile with guys fanning out, and then it looked like a lot of interchangeability. I mean, there were moments where Minta was the most forward player and was very central. The little interplay on the first ball, a couple minutes in, right? We sent Adingra over the top. I mean, he was well within the width of the box, as was Adingra running alongside him. So it was really unusual. So when you saw sort of the wide players coming narrow and the inside players going wide. And I think it's tough to track all those runners, right? When you see players coming in and out of unexpected spaces. And I think it gave us a little bit of the sort of João Pedro experience where he will drift wide from a central position, which Welbeck doesn't do quite as much, right? He's sort of more vertical. But yeah, I mean, I just thought we presented threats. I mean, Weaver, took a shot from well inside the box, winning a ball. He was pressing up really high. Igor was pressing up really high. I mean, risk reward, risk reward, risk reward. When we give up, the counterattack from those positions, we wring our hands. But it's exciting football to watch when we're pressuring that way. And I think, not to get ahead of myself, not to talk about next season already, but I think what we're going to see is more pursuit of athletic players, two-way players, size that can get up and back, be in the press and recover. I just think we're seeing more and more glimpses into what Fabian Hurstler wants to do.
No tactics, though, Dagan. No tactics. Geordie, I thought it was a great example of the versatility Hurstler brings as a coach in terms of he's not afraid to go direct. He's not afraid to play the high press. He's not afraid to play out from the back as well. So that sort of first chance from Adingra sort of proved the fact that we can go direct. What did you make of the tactics early on?
No, I think the whole season has been like this. On one side, the derby was following a little bit the idea of keeping possession, not possibly we are not the best team defending zone and counter attacks. This season, if we exclude the match against Nottingham Forest in league, the other matches we didn't have like so many huge differences against our rivals or opponents. So I think our team was better in terms of defending, in terms of keeping better the spaces and also to counter-attacking. So it's a team that is more versatile, obviously. My idea now is like it has been the best season against the top six I saw. And I hope next year it's amazing, this one, but next year we need to do the step to achieve top 6 or top 7 positions, because we need to bring back to Europe, excluding the Conference League option. So the target should be Europa League or Champions, 100% sure.
Yeah, that would be brilliant to have that aim next season. Dagan, you always talk about the expectations. You're always optimistic, but yeah, do you feel like, based on what we've seen at the end of the season, something we can push on to do?
Well, look, you heard me say before, I'm not big on expectations. I'm big on optimism, and I think there's lots of reason to be optimistic. Again, it's a broken record, but until our wage bill catches up to the top teams, we continue to overachieve, being 15th in wages and finishing in the top 10. As we inch forward, and I think we will continue to inch forward, maybe the expectations could increase. But again, I think the last thing we need as a fan base is to have outsized expectations. Goals and expectations are different. The goal of reaching Europe is worthwhile, and we're a team that's a reasonable goal, but it doesn't mean the season's a failure when we don't do that. Again, there may come a day where that is the case, but I don't think we're there yet. We've progressed, and we've continued to progress. Trust the process, trust our ownership, trust our new young manager who has shown the ability to grow. But yeah, I'm incredibly optimistic next year. If you told me we were a Champions League side next year, I wouldn't be surprised. But that doesn't mean it's an expectation. The margins are so fine. Just a few things undone from this year, and we are a Champions League team. Just a few things going negatively, games like this where we come from behind and win, and we're down in the bottom 10, right? Just small margins, and you hope to put yourself in position to reach those high levels.
Exactly that. Jordy, you spoke about the Europa League final, the tragic Europa League final that was Manchester United versus Tottenham Hotspur, and it certainly lived up to the occasion. I thought it was a terrible game. But did you expect maybe Spurs to come out and have that little bit of a spring in their step almost?
The huge issue with that was possibly the worst Spurs I've seen. I remember playing against Ajax of De Jong and these players, then losing at the last moments the others and then not winning against Liverpool. Then the last season, starting with Postecoglou, such an amazing football, and then this season was so deceiving. But I can make an exception that they have lots of injuries. Obviously, Son was not arriving in the best moment. Also, Maddison, lots of players that I think the conditions were a little bit different from United. And the other thing that I need to value is I think these kind of players value to play in sports. So it was for me, it was a consequence not of this good season, but yes, on previous seasons to have done such a good job. But facing us, Tottenham was a team the level of Brighton for me to value, and possibly Dagan would be aligned with me. It's 3 or 4 years ago, we played against United and we play against Tottenham, and we were terrific despite they were having a 10-position season. Because remember when we were playing with Duffy, with Dunk, that the target was not being relegated. Now the target is we are playing better than them. We are keeping in a stable position. We are having a style of playing. Also, all the club, you saw the women playing. It's also a good style playing, finishing in top 6, top 7. Brighton also finishing in top 10. So, yes, with the expectations, we need to be strict because our goal should be that, but we should not be deceived as Dagan was telling us. For me, Brighton has one gift, that it's the passion that we have and the way that we are managing the club. Sorry, but Manchester City and other clubs would like to be such as, because it's a very healthy way of managing. So I trust on them. Possibly Palace have won the FA Cup, whatever you want, but I'm not focused on having a good day or a trophy. The best way is to have a good trend, and Brighton it's fully on that.
Yeah, exactly that. It's great to see that we've come that far, that we're going to Spurs and we're being competitive with them probably for the last 4 seasons now, Dagan, really. It didn't start in the best way, though, yesterday, as Spurs break up the pitch and get a penalty. Mats Wiefer gives it away, swiping at the man. He's been excellent at right back, and I thought apart from that incident, he was good again. But, yeah, bit of a moment of madness from Mats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody online, I was watching the game with a bunch of folks, fans of different clubs who were watching the final day. We had 3 TVs hooked up. It was quite fun. But everybody was remarking how well he was playing. And most there hadn't seen him play right back as we had, and they're like, "Wow, he's doing great." Sure enough, left that foot hanging. But really, I felt like we had the better of the match up to that point, as too often has happened. That is one of those such moments, right, where if you could take a few back, Veltman's penalty against Everton, right, that gets glossed over. Baleba had some penalties given away cheaply early in the season. I know we talk about the 2-goal collapses, but honestly, some of our penalties given away have been pretty dire. And that one was, I don't want to say senseless, but the situation was mostly under control. But Tell did give us a bit of problem. I felt like he was their most threatening player, probably the freshest player. And, because of his age, perhaps he wasn't celebrating quite as much as some of the others. Or at least was less experienced in doing so. But it was not a great moment. And again, what speaks to our character is how we respond to adversity. You're always going to find that. You're always going to find mistakes. You're always going to have moments where you give something away cheaply. There aren't any perfect football teams out there, but how you respond. And in this case, I felt like we played well the rest of the half, but boy, it was the halftime adjustment, and I will talk more about later, that really changed our fortunes.
Exactly that. Geordie, we've been responding really well to setbacks. Obviously, Liverpool went ahead, Spurs went ahead. There's been many times this season where teams have gone ahead, but it didn't look to phase us really, did it? We came out, we still pressed them high, with knowing that still poses a risk, but I thought we did it well. What did you make of our response to the goal?
Our response to the goal, it's amazing. We are on their field, they are celebrating an European title, and the way to come back, for me, demonstrate that the problem is not in dressing room. For me, I think, I don't know if I would be super tough saying that, but Brighton needs to improve the mentality, but not in the big games. I think we need to be more strict on the games against the low teams. Winning two matches more, now we will be talking that we are in Champions League. So the target here is like Brighton has demonstrated lots of things. First of all, health club. Second, that we have the ability to have comebacks with lower teams, but also with higher teams, that we compete with the ball with such an amazing way. For me, the only thing that Brighton needs to improve, and being super humble on that, it's on consistency. If Brighton is consistent, like with low, it's like when you saw Aston Villa, for example, this I admire on them, and you saw Emery, you know that them against the bottom teams, they are going to win. You are sure that it would happen, and it's something that Brighton needs to happen. If this happens, Brighton is a team of European football every year.
But Jordan, I've got to say, we say that about Aston Villa, and yet yesterday they got handled by United.
Yeah,
I know they went down a man, but we had that game on because one of our friends is a Villa fan. They were getting thoroughly dominated before they went down a man. United had a ton of chances at the mouth of the goal. And you think, right, that's a game that's Villa's for the taking. They win, they go to Champions League, and they fall on their face against United. So people feel like it's only us. We don't win these big games, but we're not the only ones who don't win these big games.
Exactly. But the trend is like it can happen to them despite 10 men, but it's when they are not lucky, Europa League. When they are lucky, it's the Champions League. Not it's Aston Villa, but possibly it's the mentality that obviously Emery or someone has translated to them, like, or a little bit on Newcastle. Obviously, Newcastle, we were facing them, but their level that they have achieved now, it's like if they play against in a top team, in a bottom team, they have this mentality. So it's something that if we have, I think we started the season so good on that, winning against the bottom teams, and this was why we were in the positions of or close to Champions League, Europa League. But then the moment after the matches of Chelsea that we didn't start having not the best trend was the moment that keeps us far from that. But yeah, it's not something bad. we love Brighton. We want the best for the club, and if we compare to previous 20 years, it's something. I think it's nothing that we should hate or we should be horrified. It's something like if we want to win the next target, we need to ensure these kind of matches. And I think it's easy with a kind of coach like us, that like our actual coach with Hursler, because it's a coach that adapts into a lot of styles, that a coach that only wants to play with possession. I think it would be easier with this kind of coach. But this is the next step that we could achieve. Okay, there's no Caicedo, not McAllister, whatever. I can accept this season, but next season, it's like we need to have a keep stable squad. But Aston Villa would be playing Europa League, Newcastle would be playing Champions League. So that is like the top 6 clubs with these two, but a lot of them, Tottenham, all will be playing in European competitions, and us without nothing. So the target to push, it's here, 6th position, 5th position. I can accept not 4th, but we should be in this position. Like, okay, it's a year that 5 or 6 are going to Champions League. Perfect, we get the position. Not okay, facing Europa League. This is the target to improve, because Brighton have done.
Yeah, I'll note of Villa. We get lumped in with Villa, right? Like we should be competing with Villa. Villa's 6th in the wage table. Their wages are more than double ours. So I can't help but reiterate that as we sort of, we ought to be competing with them. Like, sure, on paper or because we spent a bunch this summer, but they've been spending a bunch. And they have the experience in their depth that we don't, right? Our depth is youthful and theirs is, got a little more European flavor.
Yeah, I can accept it, but also we need to accept and we need to be fully committed on that. Like, we were the club that we spent most money last year. So onto this club, despite we have earned because we sell so good something, but the club that spend the more money next year, for me, their target is to go to European football. It's not bad, not because we know that it's a wealth club. But for me, the example we have at home, if Joe allows me to explain a little bit, is like in Jupiler Pro League, also the Tony Bloom team, it's, like Union San Giluas, they win the league this year. On the 2 previous years, they have like a playoff positions. They finish the first, but finally they lose the league. The most important here, it's not the club, it's the trend. The trend is like they were facing the league and they are achieving. Now our trend is being top 10 and we are there. Perfect, we are stable. But the next step, it's like, okay, facing. I'm not telling we are doing bad. Possibly we need to go step by step. But the target is, I'm sorry, but it's not to be deceived, but the target should be we want European football and the club should be adapted on that, and that's all.
Yep, 100%, mate. You are spot on. I have just seen a report that a certain Harry Howe has scored for England under 17s even tonight. So fair play to the lad. He's had a great end to the season, getting his Premier League debut and making that little run for Jack Hinshelwood against Liverpool to open up the space. Dagan, I've highlighted a comment from Joanna talking about Mats Wife and saying that wasn't how his season was meant to end. And as I said, he was excellent after the penalty incident. Can you just sort of give an insight into just how good of a dual winner Mats Wife is?
Well, I mean, again, I talked about this, I think, last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. I think having just that extra little bit of time to think playing on the outside as opposed to being in that central midfield position in the Premier League. I thought early on he looked just a step off it, not quite quick enough, maybe not decisive enough early, and he would be late. And in a position where I don't know, I just felt like his selective aggressiveness could backfire. Playing wide, he has more support, and it just feels like his timing has been good. And maybe that's just, reps and getting up to speed in the Premier League and being a part of enough contests that he's got his feet under him. And maybe he's just back to full health, right? When he first saw him, he was coming off injuries and it felt like kind of a revolving door of, nicks and bumps and bruises for him. No, I certainly think it wouldn't be characterizing him fairly to judge him based on that that singular moment, and it certainly works out that the rest of the group got behind him and found our way back in the game. But really, he didn't look overly shaken. I thought he put in a great shift both before and after that one moment. So Joanne, I think, is spot on that he should get a lot of credit, and it's fortunate that he didn't have that one moment overshadow the rest of his performance and the performance of the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly that. Geordie, there were early signs that we would be a threat from set pieces. I think it was you, Dagan, mentioned Gruder's quality balls in, and Jack Hinshelwood had a chance with a glancing header that Vicario palmed away. It's great to see, isn't it, Geordie, that Brighton can be effective from set pieces and have been this season, especially towards the latter stages. So what did you make of Jack's contribution sort of before his goal?
No, Jack's contribution was such an amazing way that some players as him could have been injured. But for me, another thing that is important, it's like our Brighton roots and all the academy. It still brings such amazing players. So it was meant. It's like Brighton is a well-run club, and it's not that we could have ups and downs, but a club that allows, like, Joao Pedro is not there because they have an internal issue, and we don't need like this charity of having a player to try to get a position. Means like the values of the club and the line and the trend, it's so good, and the contribution of all of them was so valuable despite the goals, the way they press, they act, the internal relations that have with other players in the midfield or playing as a right back is amazing.
Yeah, exactly that. Dagan, it's come to that time of week where Joe moans about the referee. Okay. So my gripe with the referee was not so much the referee, but more Bentancur's way of going into challenges. There was one early on where he missed Simon Adingra, who was sort of going out of play, but he seemed to jump at Adingra 2-footed and didn't connect. And then there was another foul, which was a little bit of a sort of niggly in the middle foul, which didn't really bother me. And then he gets a yellow card for another big, heavy tackle. Did you think he was maybe slightly lucky that he was still on the pitch? I thought he was really diving into tackles.
Yeah, I thought from the outset there were a few early on that I thought, what was it, Rob Jones? Just sort of shrugged off, didn't want to give that early card, and it felt like things were escalating. Yeah, you could say it was lucky. Sure, it's always lucky. The big six is always lucky.
The big six, yeah, that's what we're called.
Hey, look, they're playing the Champions League next year. That's pretty big. I never would make light of their quality, but that's where they're headed, and they have plenty of money to go spend. They can overhaul that team. They can change managers. We'll see how it lands for them. It's going to be interesting to see what United does. They've already brought in Cunha, it sounds like, and look like they're trying to do even more. Heard them linked to Bomo, which is interesting because Ahmad plays on that side, and I think he's their best player right now. But
yeah, fair point. I'll stay on the good side of praising our players rather than moaning about the referee. Geordie, there was a big save from Bart Verbruggen to keep it a 1-0, and he's had his critics towards the end of this season, but I think he's really put in some big saves to keep us in big games just of late, isn't he?
No, yeah, for me he's an outstanding goalkeeper. If he's number one in his national team squad, is for something. Obviously, 1 week ago, I read some interest, also possibly was speculations, but from Madrid here in Spain. Uh, Yeah, I think he's such a good goalkeeper. Obviously, he has demonstrated a lot to us this season, but whatever, Brighton every time grows. So when you expect you could not improve, then we get another player and we keep improving. But yeah, Barber Bruin is such a good goalkeeper, and the best. One of the things that we value the most, I value the most him, is like he's not afraid of the error. So he has made some mistakes during the season, but he repeats and he's so consistent. He has like a champion mentality on that. So he's not afraid, and I value his courage.
Yeah, exactly that. Well, very well said. Dagan, let's talk about the halftime changes then, because they were the sort of catalyst for what was to come. Why? This might be an obvious question, but why do you feel Hertzler was highlighting those changes as the ones that needed to be made at halftime?
Matoma is greater than Adingra. There you have it.
Fairly obvious.
Earth shattering. And honestly, I think Gomez is a player that always provides a bright spot and a spark when he comes on. He's fearless, and I think we are just starting to see his attacking promise. Joe, I know you followed him in Miami. He really is an electric talent, with really nice 2-footed skill. Certainly that right-footed strike we saw yesterday was watching it back today. I didn't realize honestly quite how far out he was when he hit it. I know we'll talk more about it, but goodness gracious. I'm a huge Diego Gomez fan. I really think he could be a part of our best 11 next year, with the chance to settle in a little bit more. But gosh, it's gonna like the midfield competition is outrageous. It's outrageous. And just, even if João Pedro's gone, who plays the 10? Who are the two behind? Where do you slot guys like Hinchelwood in if he's, no longer playing right back? He certainly looks like he deserves a spot in the team. So who's there, right? I mean, just Gomez, Hinchelwood, Baleba, O'Reilly, Wiefer. Yeah. Talent.
What a headache for Mr. Hertzler to have next season. Pozzi saying Gomez's class will be fantastic next season. I mean, yeah, he absolutely incredible. And as Dagan said, we'll talk more about Diego's first Premier League goal a little bit later. But we're going to talk about a first Premier League brace for our wonderful Jack Hinchelwood. Mitoma wins the corner, as Dagan said, causing threats from the offset from the second half. And Jack Hinchelwood's there. The ball falls to him, Geordie, and he hits it into the roof of the net. I mean, a good few weeks for Jack Hinchelwood, right?
Yeah, you mentioned perfectly. To such a good way of comeback, but yeah, I think he demonstrated his attitude on the field, and this kind of goals always demonstrated when he is not the taller guy or the tallest guy, and always he's on the area to finish a headshot, whatever. So yeah, fully demonstrated that he's one of us.
He certainly is one of us, Dagan. Let's stay on the Jack Hinchelwood love train. Another goal, a brace from another corner. Incredible. What a back heel. The audacity, Dagan. The audacity.
But both goals are a testimony to him being alert, reading the ball, opening his body to a position where he could potentially receive it if it comes to his feet. So often I see our guys just look not quite on their toes, not quite ready when that split-second opportunity comes to score. And Jack just seems to have that self-possession in the moment, to be on his toes, to be sliding his feet, and he's just ready for that 1-2 to pop the ball in from, whatever angle it arrives at his feet. mean, the first goal, he just, as Jordy said, just quick, electric. And then the back heel, it's just the presence of mind, feeling the keeper coming behind him and knowing like all I've got to do is put this away. But yeah, he clearly is a really, really sharp kid. Just watching the way he plays, and he's fearless and competitive and scrappy and all the things that you like. I'm screaming local lad. And my friends are like, from the Tri-Cities, which is where we are. I was like, no.
From Worthing. Incredible.
Just down the road. No, but yeah, you can't say enough good things about him. And just making a huge impact at the end of the season. Couldn't be happier. Again, he's in that model of versatile, athletic, physical, and I think the most underrated part of his game, and again, Brighton fans aren't underrating it, but I think others are, in the air, he's a monster. Really, really, really tough aerially.
Jumping Jack, I've heard him being called. So maybe that will catch on. Julie saying, Buonanotte and Enciso, where do they fit in? Well, as Phil just mentioned, rumor has it that Enciso could be leaving. Buonanotte, Dagan, you pulled up a few numbers on him with his work against the ball that Hertzler might quite like, and obviously he's left-footed. So I think there may be a slight chance for Kondo next season, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him given a chance in pre-season for sure. Geordie, after the second goal, it really was sort of cruise control for the Albion. The Spurs maybe had a couple of moments, but yeah, they just looked like their legs were gone. Maybe they were too drunk. Geordie, what do you think?
No, the most important here was like Jack Hinshelwood demonstrated that he was the cleverest in the whole class, and that's all. In two corners, he had the best reaction speed, and that's all. And football also is for people that thinks quick and react quick, and Hinshelwood demonstrated that between 22 players, he was the quickest on reacting, and then arrived the penalty and the outstanding goal. But
Dagan, I don't know if you heard it, but on the playback, but there was a moment in the second half. I think it was around the 68th minute. Was it the 68th? Maybe it was a little bit later than that, where the Spurs stadium had fallen silent. And you could hear Hertzler on the sidelines, and we were in there attacking third, and he was screaming, "Keep the ball, keep the ball, keep the," and he was just urging his team to just keep going and keep high pressing, and it was just like, I think just everything came together in that second half for Hertzler ball, didn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's a quiet aggression to him, and I think the football he wants us to play, that I really think he wants to overwhelm people with pressure, with numbers in the box, with balls in. And then he wants to defend in numbers, right? I mean, that's why he talks about, right, that there's some expectation that more guys are going to get hurt, and we may need a deeper squad because we are sprinting, right? The highest correlation with injury is the number of sprints. And so if you're asking your team to sprint forward and sprint back, I think it's why you see him subbing 5 guys every game, right? He never finishes games with subs left over because he knows the demanding style of football he wants to play. And I think what's happening is when we get going, the guys start to see how effective it can be when they commit, when it's all, 10 guys out on the pitch, obviously plus the keeper working hard back there. But, as a unit, pressuring, winning the ball, getting forward in numbers, right? But it takes everybody to do that. And so, yeah, it's really exciting to see him growing into the role, to see our fans coming around to his capabilities. And, I think he was shying away a little bit from the criticism. And then I think the sort of his edge has started to come out. And, when we got some late winners, and you see him just like, there was a ferocity with which he turned to the crowd, right? It wasn't like, yay us. It was it felt at least a little, I will show you.
Rumor has it was directed at me because I tweeted Hertzler out earlier in the season. So.
You were the only one, Joe. Just you. Just you. There's still fans trashing it, man.
I know.
Is a disgrace as far as
But De Zerbi was better. Let's not talk about his second. Oh my gosh, I'm so stupid, aren't I? I was on mute, everybody. I hadn't left. What I was saying was people talking about Barco in the comments. I think it was a loan option with a buy clause in there. Was it Dagan? Am I wrong in thinking that?
That's what I've heard and what I've read. It saddens me deeply.
I know you was a massive fan of us bringing Barco to the club.
Yeah. Well, watching him and watching us, I think if we were to go to more of a back three, he'd be the perfect wide midfielder. And for Strasbourg, he's been tucking in and playing as an inside midfielder more. Just sort of doing it all as we knew. Questions about his physicality. He's a smaller guy, but he's just a baller. He's just a baller. But I do wonder, was it sort of an attitude? I mean, he's definitely got an edge to him that for me I like, but maybe rubs people the wrong way during his time actually with the club. That's all I can imagine. There just doesn't seem to be any other sensible reason why we would have made an obligation to buy unless we really felt like, he didn't. What's the term? No. What do you say, Joe? What's the club policy?
Oh, so if there's any kids watching, please either mute the screen or block their ears. No dickhead policy.
That's it. That's the policy. No jerk faces.
Exactly, as Dagan says. The most frustrating thing for me is that it's a club that are owned by Blueco, and he'll probably find his way to Chelsea at some point. Imagine my shock. Anyway, let's continue talking about the game because Gomez was again very, very lively, Geordie, and wins us the penalty. Darts into the box. Yves Bissouma, thank you very much, gives us the penalty. And Jack Hinshelwood doesn't step up for his hat-trick. Geordie, do you think maybe his FA Cup miss is still maybe haunting him a little bit?
No, I think it's something more linked to possibly that we don't know, something special that wanted our men, that possibly linked to his family or something special when the third goal was linked to him, that he wanted to take the penalty, and that's all. I don't want to have more conclusions. I think Jack Hinshelwood, that it's one of our own, and obviously it's a player that has good character, that he's ambitious, that he is not afraid. Never. I don't expect that. It was because the FA Cup. He has the courage to manage this situation.
He was just really, really nice to his mate Matt O'Reilly and thought, you know what, mate, I've had 2 goals. You can have the next. Dagan, I highlighted a comment from Dipala saying we should stop signing new players and instead funnel all of our resources into signing as many Hinshawoods as possible. Do you go for that transfer policy?
Well, I don't, but I actually think building up the academy is a really important part of Bloom's long-term model. Tons of resources have been invested in the Brighton Academy, and I think he knows long-term, right? There's full profit in developing your own guys, and the market on young players around the globe, as we can see, is trying to sign a 17-year-old for 35 or 40 million, right? It's becoming tougher and tougher to find these sort of, untouched, unknown gems around the world for cheap. But what you can do is develop them in your club if you can find them when they're, in their early teens, which is sort of staggering to think about. Or perhaps what Hinchell had been at the club since he was 7. So right, I mean that I think that ironically, I don't think we're going to stop recruiting players from elsewhere, but I do think the homegrown in the club academy talent is a part of the long-term plan. So DePaula maybe says that in jest. I'm not sure, but I think we'll see more Hinchelwoods, and it seems like Harry Howell is going to be the next to make a big impact on the first team.
Definitely. Julie saying it looked like Jan-Paul Van Hekken made the penalty decision. So that, again, proves his captaincy quality of being decisive when maybe other people weren't. Julie saying Freddie Simmons and Charlie Tasker are now are good from the academy. Yep, Freddie Simmons playing for England tonight, as well as Harry Howell. So, we've got such a exciting future. I know I keep seeing the tweet, and I love seeing it, but people always tweet the future is brighter. The future is bright, and I love it. So let that continue. Let's talk about. Well, we haven't mentioned the penalty. It was a great finish by Matt O'Reilly, Geordie. It always worries me a little bit when players don't take a big run up, a little bit like a Haaland run up. When I'd much prefer them to do a Haaland run up where they just plough through the ball. But it was a well-placed penalty, wasn't it, Geordie?
Yeah. I think Matt O'Reilly, it's like this kind of player that I want to watch him the next season. It's a player that I think on next season he would do a step up and he would progress a lot. Also, the same on Diego Gomez. There are players that I don't know that if we are going to see such a different version, but in terms of Matt O'Reilly, I think he's an intelligent player. He could be positional, but also he helps on counter attack. He's intelligent. I don't know. I have more expectations on Matt O'Reilly on the Dutchman that creates the penalty. So I don't know. It's my way of seeing. I think Diego Gomez and Matt O'Reilly are going to play more than much before in the future. But it's my way of watching this.
Interesting. I just hope we don't sell Matt O'Reilly. I've just grown to like him. Well, I liked him from the moment we signed him. But you warm to a player, and then there's rumours of them leaving after just a season. Please stay, Matt, because we want to see more of those hilarious tongue-out celebrations that you seem to love to do. Dagan, there was a nice moment just before the Gomez goal where James Milner was returned to the pitch by Fabian Hertzler. Hertzler mentioned after the game that it was a sort of thank you to James Milner for being there for him, for being there for the team during all the adversities that they've had to sort of get over this season. So, yeah, great to see James Milner. And what do you think the reaction from the bench maybe tells you that he might not be playing a role next season, or do you think he'll still be here?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, we'd heard not long ago that they were in talks about a future at the club, and it makes you wonder: is that future on the staff or is it on the pitch? Certainly, if he's back in the squad, it's going to be a very limited role. Maybe coming into ice away games at the end. But I think a good locker room presence by all accounts. And we could do a lot worse than have him continue to influence with a lot of championship experience. So, yeah, you've got to like a guy like James Milner around the club. And I think it was really nice if it was his last to give him a chance to finish on the pitch, right? This is a guy who spent a lot of time out there, as much as anybody in the Premier League, I think, maybe even the most. Is he the longest tenured player in the Premier League ever?
Most seasons played, I believe.
Yeah.
But not the most appearances yet. I think he needs like 15 more.
Wow.
I want to say. Wow. So maybe he might stick around to be subbed on in the last 3 seconds of every game to get that from Gareth Barry. Gareth Barry, who was in fact from a town where I grew up, Hastings. So there you go. The more you know.
Human victory cigar, I think is the term for that.
Exactly that. Exactly. I mean, let's not beat around the bush any longer. Diego Gomez, his first Premier League goal, Geordie, a beautiful celebration where he was clearly very emotional scoring his first goal. And what is it about Paraguayans and scoring absolute screamers for Brighton? Talk us through the goal, Geordie.
I just want to emphasize like top 3 goals on the last 3 seasons, obviously, for me are the two from Enciso against Chelsea, against Manchester City, and this one. For me, I think are my top 3 goals of Brighton during last 3 seasons. So yeah, Paraguayan screamer seems the same. I think they are different profiles. One is a 10 and it's like close to, it's not a striker, but yeah, on his side, he's a midfielder that it gives you lots of positions. I think lots of South American um, fans would love to know that because it was hard after Moises Caicedo, after McAllister, after also, despite we kept, despite also Bonanote was leaving, also Sarmiento there. So yeah, it's another gem. I think he is going to play an outstanding level next season.
Exactly that. I am all for the Diego Gomez love. Dagan, you've had to listen to me all year banging on about how good Diego Gomez is. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad he's finally scored. Dagan, we will talk about the goal with yourself because, again, another beautiful piece of individual brilliance, no?
Yes, of course, and only that. So the ball played wide to Matoma. He stretches, and because he's Matoma, there's a second creeping towards him, which again, we fill the space outside the box with an extra man, and there's space in front of him. How does that keep happening? Surely it's by accident. Surely it's not players in the box being accounted for and opening up space on the edge of the box. It's amazing how this keeps happening this year. But again, there's some tactic involved. I also want to shout out Gomez because there was a beautiful moment where he had a shot on target earlier in the match where it was Gruda to Gomez, back to Gruda, back to Gomez, and it was gorgeous football. And the keeper positioned himself well. Gomez didn't quite bend it, start it wide enough, and it curled back towards the keeper. But still, just showing his quality. And right, I mean, you've got to hit an incredible ball to put it in the net, but those shots are makeable when you're given that much time and space to hit it. And again, the Spurs, they're down 3-1. They're in the Champions League. They don't have a lot to play for. So maybe that helps here. But I do think the presence of Matoma and drawing a second defender creates that opening in that space. And guys learning how to play off each other. It's something that I think you talk about time on the training pitch, but there's nothing like a game atmosphere. And for some of these guys, they just haven't had a ton of reps in games together. And that's the really exciting thing about having these young guys as they're growing together and getting used to each other. And you see these movements and these quick interplays happening. You're like, wow, these guys are really starting to look like a team. And so, again, reason for the optimism, reason for the excitement that Jordy's talking about earlier, because, if we keep some of these guys together for a couple of years, where will we be? And I know that's the worry, is who will go. And eventually, Jordy, I take your point. We're going to have a couple of years of continued hitting the goal where we reach Europe to really be able to keep everybody. And so that always is the worry when you don't reach Europe for a couple of years running. Are you going to lose a João Pedro? Are you going to lose a Matoma? And then do you have enough? I think what we did this summer is to make sure that we could weather the next round of departures in a way that we hadn't done well before. I still think we're trying to figure out the Baleba departure. I know Yakuye is a little bit of that, but I don't think he's quite Baleba. And so it'll be interesting to see if we find an understudy for him this summer, knowing that this might be his last year. I know I veered in a different direction there, but it starts with my enthusiasm around Gomez and these guys coming good. But Joe, you are right, and I was right there with you. Gomez, love him.
Good man. Michael saying, don't forget Georgie. How could we ever forget Jorginho, Bloody Rutter? Stay with us, Georgie, because your smile is infectious. It could light a million rooms. I love that man. Stop it, I'll cry. Let's have a look and see what else in the comments. Julie saying, I have loved our young players. Been allowed to make mistakes and grow. Such a good support in the team. Yeah, exactly. Great support, obviously, with Danny Welbeck, Lewis Dunk, people like that, senior figures. Joanna saying there's no denying that on our best runs, it's been when the team has been more stable, which obviously hasn't always been possible with some of the injuries we've had, which, of course, is a reason, not an excuse. It's a reason why there have been those moments, Joanna. You're absolutely spot on. And so many players to come back from injury next season. Ferdi Kadioglu, who looked incredible when he was playing for us. So, yeah, reasons to be very excited. And obviously, ending the season with a 5-match unbeaten streak, which I think equals Dagan, our longest in the Premier League. 5 matches unbeaten.
Of Premier League matches, I think you may be right. Matches at the streak from earlier this season. That was 4. That was 4.
Was that 4? So we've just had 5 matches unbeaten to end our season, which is incredible feat. But yeah, so Geordie, based on what you saw yesterday, who is your player of the match?
I prefer that you start, Dagan, if you can.
All right, Dagan, podium, please.
Podium is tough. Can it be Hinchelwood, and Hinchelwood?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great performances, but I think there's such a clear-cut number one for this match that it's Hinchelwood for me. If I had to throw a podium together, I would probably say Gruda second. Just the quality of the balls he put in, thought were tremendous. And then third, wow, where do you go? That's Baleba being Baleba just all the time. Sure, there we go.
Yeah. No, I fully agree, but yeah, also Diego I would put there. I think he was consistent when he played, but yeah, if we don't give to Hinchelwood with this context, never we are going to give to him. But yeah, this season for me, obviously, Van Heck, Baleba, it's the season of these 2 players. For me, possibly, if we need to summarize the whole season, possibly if I need to do a top 3, I don't know what you think, but Baleba and Van Heck would be in the top 3, 100%.
Exactly that. Julie saying, how about a podium of the goal scorers? That would be the easiest selection for sure. Michael saying Bart for him. And Phil in the comments says, was it only 9 games lost this season? Yes, only the 9 losses this season. But everybody is still very, very angry at Hertzler. Make it make sense.
5 was correct, Joe.
There we go. See, I am Statman. I'm taking over Dagan.
Statman Joe, I'm fired. I'm fired. Get out of here. Replaced.
Dagan, I'm going to do a podium as well. You've inspired me. So third on my podium is going to be Bart Verbruggen, because I think if it wasn't for his big save at 1-0, we wouldn't have gone on to come back in the way we did. Second, I would like to give it to Mats Wiefer, because I think he could have sort of collapsed under the pressure of making a mistake again, and he's made a couple this season, and people have got on his back, but he's been excellent at right back. He's so good. Geordie's waiting for my number one. I am going to copy Dagan. I'm very sorry. It is Jack Hinchelwood. I mean, there was a tweet that came out from We Are Brighton before the game, and they said we spent £200 million in the summer, and here we are starting Jack Hinchelwood up front. which Jack Hinshelwood actually replied to after the game. So he had the last laugh. And yeah, what an incredibly versatile player. And yeah, he's one of our own. So I love it. I absolutely love to see it. So yeah, there's my podium, Dagan. I hope you like it. Thumbs up from Dagan. That's what we like. So I guess that draws us to the end of this week's show. I just want to give a big shout out to everybody who has watched us this season. There is more content coming out to you towards the end of the season. We're going to do a full season review. So if you want to ride the roller coaster again and see me get angry again about the 7-0 loss, then feel free to tune into that. We are going to do a awards evening as well, where we're going to give the coveted Albi awards out to the players. There may be some fun categories in there for you as well. And again, I just want to extend my thanks to the people that have worked so hard on this podcast this year. Dagan, Geordie, Tom, Curtis, Adam, Chloe, Andrew. I'm probably missing people. I'm so sorry if I've missed you, but there's a lot of names that have been so generous with their time. And this is a project that I started 4 years ago, and I never thought it would get to the stage where it's at. So I absolutely love to see it. And thank you to our listeners and viewers for always tuning in, for always putting the comments in and interacting with us. Posy Pos saying it's the best Brighton podcast by a mile. Posy, I'm buying you a beer at the Amex next season, mate. That's very nice. So yeah, that rounds off season 4. Well, there's going to be 2 more episodes, but season 4 in terms of game reaction of the Albion Obsessed podcast. Please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be pumping out content over pre-season as well, so you're not going to get bored of no football. We're still going to be talking about it. Follow the transfer tracker that Dagan puts together, because there's going to be a lot of stuff on that for sure. Dagan, before we sign off, FPL, who won our league? Was it you?
It was not me. 7 points short. Massive. Whoever Massive is was the winner. What was Massive's name? Give him a shout out here. But yeah, I fell short. FPL or not FPL, Fantasy Challenge. I did a little better. 809 world rank in the FPL Challenge, 38th in the US. I was pretty proud of that. I did scratch top 250K. This is my second year doing FPL, so it was really fun. Let me see if I can name our winner. Greg Shaw. If anyone knows Greg Shaw, get him in touch with us so we can congratulate him. 2,468 points, edging my 2461. I did win my work league, though. I see those folks every day, so that was important. But yeah, AO League coming next year. Adam on the pod would have beaten us all had he been in the league. So shout out to Adam as well. But yeah, guys, it's been so much fun. Thanks everybody for being in the chat. I really enjoy it. Enjoy the dialogue and get the stat corrections from you guys. Are always quick on those. And yeah, it's just so fun to be here. Jordy, it's great seeing you. It's nice to have the whole international contingent. We needed Phil here with us too. We have a whole United Nations of Albion Obsessed. But Joe, thanks for hosting. And Tom, we miss you. Curtis, we miss you. All the others today. But we're going to see everybody for the Albies, Joe.
Yes, we are aiming to have as many people on the Albies as we can. We can only have up to 10 people on the stage at any one time because of StreamYard rules. But we are expecting the return. Only the OGs will remember Mr. Toby Pollard. Hopefully, will be coming on the podcast. Wow. He was the guy that started this podcast with me all those years ago. Yeah. The long-awaited return of Mr. Pollard is something that I would love. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for our end-of-season analysis. That's going to be great fun. But as we sign off, I will say for one final time this season, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, we will see you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.